How's it going, everyone? I'm Landon with LMR.com. We got a good one for you today. In this video, we're gonna be taking a look at our 5.0 Resto digital instrument cluster. Yes, I said digital instrument cluster, designed for the 1987 to 1993 Fox Mustangs. All right, so every good part typically has a good backstory. And the backstory on how this digital instrument cluster came to fruition is pretty simple. Whenever Shannon, the owner of our company, for those of you that don't know, fully restored his Uncle Ted's 1985 ASC McLaren Capri, he was wanting a modern factory-style cluster. In order to accomplish this, we had to lean on Dakota Digital to help us out. Well, after weeks of collaboration, we finally had the finished cluster for Ted's car, and it was an absolute home run. Now, for those of you that have been around for a while, know that we genuinely enjoy fixing and modifying Fox Body Mustangs. To us, one of the missing links for these cars was a modern, factory-looking instrument cluster. So, we turned to Dakota Digital yet again, and they were able to build us these exclusive 5.0 Resto digital instrument clusters for the 1987 to 1993 Fox Mustangs. So now let's get into some details. The 5.0 Resto instrument clusters are meticulously built in-house by Dakota Digital. This cluster includes 6 analog gauge sweeps in conjunction with twin LCD message centers, which puts a lot of information right in front of you. The gauges include battery voltage, engine coolant, oil pressure, fuel level, tachometer, and speedometer, which are all positioned similar to your factory cluster. Now, if we really dig deep in the details, you'll notice that the RPM caution sweep starts at 5,500 RPM and then transitions to red at 6,500 RPM, which is very close to that factory cluster. But if you notice, we bumped it up to 8,000 RPM. Taking a closer look at the speedometer gauge, you'll see the infamous red tick mark at 55 miles per hour, and we also increased this to 160 miles per hour. Not to mention all the gauge indicator logos, the RPM times 1,000 and miles per hour all share a similar position to that of the factory cluster. The built-in indicators include left and right turn signals, high beam, check engine, parking brake, and cruise control. Each 5.0 Resto instrument cluster is illuminated with white LEDs, which does have a dimming feature whenever the parking lights or the headlights are turned on, and each needle is going to glow orange whenever the LED backlighting is triggered. Within the LCD message centers, you'll find very cool performance meters, which include a 0 to 60 miles per hour timer, a quarter-mile timer, and a quarter-mile trap speed, just to name a few. You'll also be able to cycle through these message centers and view digital RPM, A and B trip meters, odometer, a 12-hour clock, and a few other selections. Now let's talk a little bit about the technical details. You will remove the factory coolant temperature sensor in the lower intake manifold and the oil pressure sensor in the side of the engine block and install the provided senders. This is because of the proprietary calibration settings within the cluster and the control box. The fuel gauge can be calibrated within the cluster to accept the proper resistance rating of the factory sending unit, and all of this is easily understood by reading the instruction manual. The alternator load resistor will be wired into the right-hand side of the factory cluster connector to ensure that the alternator charges the system. For 87 to 89 cars, you'll splice the alternator load resistor onto the left-hand connector. The speedometer can be calibrated manually by driving one measured mile, or you can purchase Dakota Digital's GPS sender box, which operates off of a GPS signal. The GPS sender box is currently available on our site. In the box will be a 5.0 Resto digital instrument cluster, control box, sender pack with pigtails, switch assembly, alternator load harness, a Cat 5 cable to connect the box to the cluster, a speed sensor plug, and a very detailed installation manual. Our 5.0 Resto instrument clusters are currently available for 1987 to 1989 and 1990 to 1993 Fox Mustangs, and they can be used with pretty much any engine combination. When installing this digital instrument cluster, I would recommend above average mechanical and electrical skills and a really good assortment of tools. You will also need to supply your own 18 gauge wire, butt connectors, or soldering equipment, and other miscellaneous installation supplies. We do have a dedicated video covering the installation steps for this 5.0 Resto cluster, so be sure and check that one out as well. I don't know about you guys, but this cluster, it makes me want to go build a car like right now. This has been an awesome project to be a part of, and we are beyond excited to offer these 5.0 Resto digital instrument clusters to all of you. As always, for the most current product information, pricing, and availability on anything in the video, please reference LMR.com. I know you guys like this video, but go ahead and smash that thumbs up button and let us know what you think down in the comments. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and turn on notifications. That way you're notified every time we release something new. And you guys know what to do by now. For all things Fox Body Mustang, you gotta keep it right here with the real enthusiasts, LMR.com.